Okay, it was really nice to understanding about the how conversational AI is working, and the now we are going to talk about the open banking challenges and hurdle. We have talked a lot about how it works, but what are some of the challenges and hurdles? It's really important to understand. For that, we have the Maurice. He's the Chief Technological Advisor at APIIDA. Yeah, hey Maurice, welcome to the
Hi,
API Days. Yeah,
thank you for
hello.
having me.
Yeah, okay,
So,
stage is all yours, and we are super excited to understand about the challenges and hurdles in open banking. Yeah.
sure. So, first of all, thank you very much for having me, even if it is remotely. I would have loved to be in Dubai, but I can only share the background. This is the Dubai Marina from the top. So, hopefully that gives a bit the ambiance for people who are not there. Um, So open banking hurdles and challenges. I have added also PSD2 because being Apida being from Germany, we have a lot of customers who are PSD2 centric. So more than open banking. But then again, PSD2 is one of the standards of open banking. Without further ado, I'm going to go to the next slide. Yeah. Um, so who are we, first of all? We are API management experts. So APIDA is a company from Germany. I myself am in the Netherlands, but we have colleagues from all over Europe, well, even more than just Europe. And we look at a higher level at API management. We look at different technologies. We have started by being specialized in the Broadcom layer 7, but then we spanned across, as you can see, RPG, AWS, Gravity.io, Axway, Microsoft. We also advance courses regarding Open API and API days, API days as well. So some of our customers, they are across the world, as you can see from here. We look at different stacks, silos of industries, and as such, different verticals have different standards. We try to look as many as possible. And today we are concentrating on open banking, on the banking part. So, first of all, I just wanted to, in order to level the playing field, what are the challenges? Why are we moving towards an open banking, or why would a region or a country look at adopting open banking? And this is because in a classical banking, you know very well that every bank is a closed ecosystem. I mean, that's normal. It's a company, they come up, they've got their own systems. Which means also that any TPP, now here I'm using TPP, but it's any uh, fintech that wants to connect to a bank to give to their customers um, a good user experience when it comes to payment or to account management. They will have to actually integrate themselves with the bank ad hoc, meaning every single connection needs to be done according to who is the bigger fish. So there is no standardization. The TPP needs to be approved and registered and audited by each bank individually. And, you have a lack of global financial grade API specialized team because, of course, every bank, every institution has their own. With the introduction of open banking, this has changed. The bank becomes a closed but also open ecosystem because of the standardized open API interface. And a TPP can be centrally registered. So the TPP doesn't need to go to every single bank and show who they are, why they are good, and this and that. They do it once, and that registration will hold at at a legal level, at a national level, or even regional level. Banks do not need to make their own security checks, so they don't need to invest in auditors and so on and so forth. They can just go and check for the validity of the certificate. Plus, of course, it's all about reusable logic and APIs, and it is FAPI compliant, so financial grade API compliant, because at this point the team that looks after the standards is a global team, is a national team. So the bank doesn't need to have their own experts. They can look outside of the bank for that, which reduces costs. So here is a bit of a. It would have been nice to have the uh, animation, but unfortunately there isn't. But the idea is that it all starts with the TPP that needs to talk to the national authority and register. The national authority will do their auditing, their due process to check that the TPP is valid. Then they would go to the QTSP that will release a certificate, a digital certificate that proves that the TPP is who they are with the claims they have. That is done by the QTSP checking with, doing their due diligence with the national authority to see if the TPP has any records or anything like that. So that's why there is this line between QTSP and national authority. Once that's done, then only then the PSU can delegate to the TPP, black lines, to the TPP, delegate banking actions, which could be account information actions or payment initiation actions with the ASPSP. And the ASPSP can verify the validity of the TPP both with the QTSP very easily by checking the signature of the digital certificate, and also do a call if needs be to the national authority to see what claims exactly the TPP has and if they are valid. And if that's all done, then there is the verification, of course, of the PSU. Who is the PSU? Who is the customer in line? Moreover, the last step is the green one, which is the management. The ASPSP should have a management interface for the PSU, just like in OAuth. You can always go to Google or to Facebook or to GitHub and remove any authorization or any consent you have given to any apps. The same thing the PSU needs to be able to do with the ASPSP. So having looked at this, now there is the big question: what are the challenges and hurdles that we have seen as APIDA that happen within the industry? So I I was just looking at the comments to see if there was anybody uh, um, asking anything. First of all, the challenges and hurdles are divided into three. There are three groups here. There is the central authority. Now, I'm putting central authority, not national authority, because in the case of the PSD2, for example, the authority is Europe. In other words, the EBA, and that spans many countries. Nevertheless, within that, every country has their own national authority that does the due diligence according to their own laws, because, of course, they are all independent countries. So, first of all, the first challenge here is that a central authority needs to be established. This means an actual body within the national or regional area that is able to create what is an API framework, what is the open banking framework to adopt, how do we deal with auditing and with verifying any QTSPs. QTSPs are the certificate authorities, and maintain that validity, as well as the TPP, and how do we revoke, how revocation works, and so on and so forth. The other challenge, of course, the other body that has challenges is the bank or the fintech. The bank in particular needs to be able to integrate their existing bank APIs, because let's face it, nowadays every bank has got APIs. whether it is through like the mobile, sorry, you don't see the mobile app from the bank, or even some APIs that they built in order to interface with, in order for other TPP-like bodies to interface with their APIs. This could be the likes of, let's say, PayPal or some nationally available service. So the best way would be to see if any of those APIs that are already there can be integrated, can be changed slightly in order to be compliant with the new open banking regulations of the country or the region. Then the second hurdle for the bank is to integrate and adapt the authentication and authorization process for the PSU, because there is already, all the banks have got some way sorts of authenticating the user for any operations, whether they be just for logging in or to issue payments or so on and so forth. These need to be integrated. And once you integrate that, have a consent and authorization managed system in place for the PSU, because this is a new service that the bank would be providing to their customers, and management of this service needs to be in place. Another hurdle is to implement the TPP verification logic and functional checks. These functional checks could be checks that you do to check the claims that the TPP has, uh, but also the um, how long does a content have to live with for? Is it a one-time usage, for example, for payment initiation? All these, do you accept IBANs that are coming from all countries or some countries? Are regulations different if those IBANs are from external countries? All these kind of checks. Lastly, but not least, is develop a sandbox for early adoption. So what you can do is you can already put in place certain rules in there, certain sandboxes, so that as a bank you can test the validity of your APIs, and you can provide that test box to external developers like TPPs. And here we go into the TPP hurdle, which are to implement the TPP logic in its own app, and also to demonstrate that AISP and PISP functionalities are present according to the standards to the QTSP and national authorities. Because in some countries like, well, Spain, for example, one of the requirements that a TPP has in order to be a valid TPP is that they have a sandbox, like a sandbox that a bank would have, so that they can show that they can be compliant to the standards of PSD2 over and over again, and not just at the beginning. So these are the challenges and hurdles. Now, us as APIDA, we have generated a solution pack for this. The solution pack is a package. It includes both the logical framework. It includes also some expert services to help to plug in the solution in the banks in this case, which is focused for the banks, but also can be used for TPPs, as you can see, for the last step. This solution pack has been developed for the sole purpose of increasing the time to market and ensuring the compliance of the banks in questions with the standard that they have. It also includes a function of being able to be customized and to be adapted to any changes within these standards, because let's face it, the standards will change with the changes in security concerns and in attacks. Those standards will have to change. So this solution has to be flexible. We also provide expert services There it is, expert services that can help central authorities in their API frameworks needs. Nowadays, like it happened, because the open banking is an open standard, new players, they do look at other solutions in place. So the early adopters, of course, had to build everything by themselves, and they adopted this. But the newcomers, say, for example, Turkey, they looked at the standards that were already there from the UK open banking and the PSD2, and they looked at what services and what framework fitted best their use case. So we as experts, we can come in and we can also look at it together with the central authority to choose the best path. Of course, the first part, the central authority needs to be established. That is something we cannot help with because it's up to the country or to the region. And the same with the QTSP and TPP auditing framework, because that is more of a legal approach. So we are API experts, and our expertise unfortunately ends at a certain point. But also, what we can help with is, with the expert services, is to help banks and TPPs. So we try to be as holistic as possible with our offerings in order to help to overcome any challenges and hurdles that banks or TPPs have in adopting the frameworks from their own open banking standards. So, what do we offer? In concretely, what is the advantage? Is of course faster time to market, because depending on the region, for example, PSD2 has been written in law, so banks need to be compliant. They don't have a choice. And the fast time to market is not just an advantage, an economical advantage over the competition, but it is how quick you can be operational in the market. And that is quite useful. The same with TPPs. TPPs, in the case of TPPs, it's more of an economical requirement. Being uh, faster compliant with the regulations means that they can be more. There is a bigger ROI. The second thing that we can help with, and we will help with, is compliance to standards. Not only the standards of today, but as standards evolve, the new standards uh, will need someone to look at and see how it can be implemented. Integration, we can help also with integration, of course. That goes without saying. A consultancy, expert services as well, and something that a lot of times I see missing is CI/CD and operations automations. Now it's all good and dandy to have a solution in place. The thing is, the solution needs to be maintained, developed upon, and in some cases changed. But you cannot do it always on production. So you need to have a means of moving from one environment to the other in a seamless and painless way, and possibly leveraging all the versioning control, staging, testing environments that are in place. This is something that we also are experts on and that we can help. So we have tools that can be put in place that, you know, connect to tools that are already there, like Jenkins and GitHub, Bitbucket. that makes that journey, the CI/CD and operations automation journey, much easier. So what you will find yourself with is not just a solution for addressing the hurdles of open banking themselves, but also how to address the hurdles in the future in a seamless way and in an easy way, and be a maintainable solution as well. So at this point, with 4 minutes to spare, I would like to open the floor to any questions that someone might have regarding, the hurdles themselves, or our experience on the field, or even, you know APIDA, what it can do.
Sure. Thank you, Maurice. It was really nice to learning about the challenges. So we have a questions from the audience. Someone is
Oh,
asking that, yeah, someone is asking that how to be ready with the challenges for the open bankings. Do you have any recommendation on books, blogs, or any resources that could help them to be ready with the challenges, or how? What are some of the resources that they should learn or they should read before jumping to the open banking process?
so yes, there are resources out there. I mean, I'll be completely honest. I'm not too much of a bookworm. I'm more
Okay.
of a blog
Mm-hmm.
and and website worm,
Yeah.
if I may
Okay.
dare say so. So indeed, there are different resources out there.
Mm-hmm.
We ourselves have been using in order when we had to come up with a solution. What I focused I focused our documentation
Okay.
or our research on, first of all, the Berlin group itself. So PSD2, PSD2 resources are under the Berlin group um,
Mm-hmm.
website. They've got a huge,
Okay.
extensive amount of PDFs, and
Okay.
the UK open banking website.
Okay.
So I would
Okay.
seriously consider anybody to look at both. The two advantages is that the Berlin group has got quite a lot of PDFs showing at a like a booklet how things work, why certain decisions have been taken, while the open banking UK have got actual flow diagrams that show exactly the calls. So for someone who is much more technical, I would say go on to the open banking UK website to look for those resources. While for someone who wants to know more of a holistic, have a more holistic view, I would say go to the Berlin Group website, where you can really download a huge amount of resources. So I
Mm-hmm.
would focus on those.
Cool. Okay. Okay. Got it. Okay. Okay. Thank you very much, Maurice, for the wonderful session and talk and sharing about the challenges of the open banking. Okay. Thank you very much.